I am going to look into that, Kathy, and the answer will be in the FAQ that we distribute at the end of this week. Jody, when projects are scored, will we be negatively impacted for not meeting our estimated miles and trips on past projects due to COVID the last 2 years? That is a good question, Jody. No, we will not penalize you for COVID. Robin, is the budget by project or a comprehensive? It's by project. If we submitted our LOI under Seneca, but now we need to apply for Lorraine because small urban, can we make this change in the application? Yeah, I would go ahead and reach out to Kiera, Karen. My initial thought is yes, that's fine. But I want to make sure that she kind of gives you that approval for your Lorraine location. I would rather you just have that on file, if that makes sense. So if you can just reach out to her and let her know that you are going to be applying for the same projects as Seneca and Lorraine, and is that allowable, she can just respond with a yes, and then that will be on record that, we're all good. Tom, no state amount will be needed listed. Correct. So you do not have to distinguish between federal and state when you are filling out your project requests. The ODOT assistance line incorporates federal and state. So if you do need state assistance for like match, right, you don't have enough local funds for the complete match, it's still going to be represented in that total ODOT assistance needed line. You're not breaking it out. Lindsay, trying to search this myself and getting mixed answers, like I should know this, but Richland County, urban or rural? It is small urban. George White, what is the dates when it opens and when is it due? The application is published March 28th and is due May 4th. My pun is May the 4th be with you when submitting your application. So maybe that will help you remember. May 4th is the deadline. Janelle, is Union County considered rural or urban? It is rural. Tammy, have the LOI responses been sent out? Yes, they have. And if you haven't received them, please reach out and we will look into that. But they all should have been sent out by now. Last week, we sent them out. Are there evaluation criteria for the applications? Are they available on the website? So it depends. So because you're not applying by program, there isn't necessarily, because each program has its own evaluation criteria. However, the evaluation criteria is published for each program on the program page on the website. So like for 5310, the scoring is located in the program guidance that is linked on the 5310 webpage. For 5339, it is included on the webpage, but I'm not sure if it's by itself or in a guidance document, so I'm gonna have to look into that. 5311 doesn't have formal evaluation criteria that's being developed, so there is nothing to publish for that. OTP2, its evaluation criteria is published on its webpage. So you're not going to be, you would have to look at every program's evaluation criteria since it's all kind of a little bit different, but you can access that. And then once your projects are assigned to a program source, so to speak, meaning we have decided, okay, your project's gonna be funded out of XYZ, then you would know what programs ultimately funded your project, and you could request scorecard, whatever you need. And if you are eligible for multiple programs, so let's say that one project is eligible for 5311, 5310, and OTP2, each program will score your project, and your project, the first consideration for your project will be whatever project it scored the highest in. So you could make a request after the application cycle for a copy of all of your scorecards. And if there were multiple, you could get multiple. Shannon, if MM receives federal 5310, can ODOT provide 20% match? We can. We can either do it through state funding or transportation development credits. But again, state funding is very limited. And the transportation development credits are a soft match, so it's actually kind of federal money when we actually put it in a grant. So that kind of plays into our consideration too. So it is totally possible for us to provide the match. It just, it could make it more risky if you do require us to fund 100% of the project cost, because if we don't have all that funding available, it could be one of those situations of like all or nothing, right? Where, okay, we can't fund all of this, so we're not going to be able to fund it at all. Robin, how are the requests for vehicles within this comprehensive application being prioritized by ODOT between past 5311 and 5310 entities? I am not sure exactly what you mean by that question, Robin. But when it comes to vehicles, applicants will prioritize each vehicle yourself. So you will, indicate what the priority is at the local level for that project. But then when we're considering projects, if it's say it's eligible for 5310, it will be scored using the 5310 criteria, and we will prioritize broad projects based on vehicle score. And then it's the same for 5339. There is scoring evaluation for vehicles under that program as well. So priority will be given to vehicles that score the highest. In terms of past vehicle recipients. So that is a good point. If you are an organization that has received vehicles in the past, let's say, and I mean recently, let's say that you have 3 vehicle awards that still haven't been delivered and you're requesting 3 additional vehicles, we will prioritize agencies who do not have pending vehicles ahead of people who are still waiting on vehicles, just because getting people in the queue that have no vehicle orders on file, you know, instead of giving someone 5 pending vehicles and then someone having 0, we are considering that in terms of past recipients of the program. So I don't know if that answers your question. Let me know if not, I can clarify. Barbara, Ashtabula County has always been designated as rural. That has not changed, correct? Correct. Ashtabula is a rural county. Robin, are letters of support approval needed from public rural transit for systems and or mobility managers for non-rural transit vehicle requests that cover the same area? Yes. So that is one of the questions in the application is, if you are not a public transit system, a question will appear for each project that asks if there is a public transit system in the same service area that your project is being delivered in. If the answer is yes, 2 things will happen. 1, you will be asked to explain how the public transit system is insufficient or unreliable in your area, and how your project will address needs that the public transit is not. And then you will also be asked to get a letter of support from the public transit that basically verifies what you're saying and that this is addressing a need that the public transit cannot address. Stephanie, if Allen County is small urban, but LOI was submitted as rural, covering multiple counties that are rural as well, is approved needed for Kiera as well? Kiera, can you chime in here? When you reviewed Allen County, I'm assuming this is maybe PSA 3. When you approved their LOI, did you approve it for small urban and rural?
Correct. Yes, it was approved for both.
I hear Kiera from her queue, but I don't hear her on the webinar, so I don't know if she's muted, but she said correct. You were approved for both areas, Stephanie, so you do not need to reach out to Kiera. You were already approved for small urban and rural. Tom, it does not appear that Geauga County is eligible for rural funding, or is it? Geauga County is rural. David, is Licking County rural or small urban? That is small urban. Michelle, this is a question for the 2022 Black Cat invoicing. I went in and am unable to set up the invoice under the budget summary selection. Thank you. Yes, Michelle, we became aware of that issue. It is an internal issue where some of the projects need to be progressed through the life cycle in Black Hat. So that is just internally what we need to do. It's already on our radar. Joachim Bean is working with us to get that done, and we will send out a notification as soon as all of the projects have been progressed through to where you should be able to then assign that project to the budget summary report. Kim, are American Recovery Plan funds permitted to be used as local match? The county commissioners have received these funds, have these funds available. I know some federal funds can be braided per CCAM, but ARPA funds are a new funding stream not addressed in that report. Yeah, so this depends. Most likely, yes, but it all depends on who the administering agency is. If the ARPA funds came from a DOT, grantor agency, then no, right? So if your local county commissioners got ARPA from FHWA, you can't use it as match. So you need to ask the county commissioners in your example what the CFDA number is of those funds so that you can look in the Code of Federal Domesticated Accounts. I think that's what CFDA stands for, and that will tell you who the awarding entity was, like what program that applies to, and you should be able to figure out what federal program is overseeing those funds. So most likely you can. Hopefully it came from an agency that wasn't DOT, but you need to actually verify that locally. Robin, as I understand it, ODOT is placing the approval of past 5310 vehicle requests into the hands of the 5311. Oh, no. Kiera, can you speak to this?
Yes, so Robin is asking, as I understand it, ODOT is placing the approval of past 5310 vehicle requests in the hands of the 5311.
I am not. Can you provide some clarification on that question, Robin?
Yeah, I mean, no 5311s are approving any requests. Krista, Hocking County is considered rural, correct? Yes, it is rural. Kelly, I believe Scioto put urban on letter because of the 50,000 population designation. Okay, if there was confusion with that, that's okay. Scioto is rural, so just indicate rural in your application. Scratch that, we sent it as rural, okay. Robin, this is the first time ever that the current rural transits will be in direct funding competition with 5310. Not really, because there's still, you're not in funding competition per se. 5310s can't access 5311 funds if they don't meet the requirements of providing public transportation. So you're not really in direct competition. We are just combining the application efforts into one, but you still have to meet all of those requirements before you can access the funding. And the same for public transits. You know, 5310 is really dedicated to nonprofits. So public transits technically can receive 5310, but they are the lowest priority. And oftentimes their projects are not selected because, you know, they have a lot more funding available to them than the nonprofits do.